Hello there, job seekers. Jennifer Tardy here. I am your career success coach, and we are back for another episode. And today's episode is Signs Your Job Interview Was Garbage. I hate to say it that way. Now, this video is a spinoff of last week's episode, which was Signs Your Job Interview Went Exceptionally Well. And this week's video is maybe it didn't go so well. And what are those signs that you will be able to see during the interview process, or maybe as you reflect, you're like, that happened, and it just was not good. And I'll give you my disclaimer up front that the more signs that you see, the worse it probably means for the outcome of your interview. Got it? Okay, so make sure that you stick through all the way through until the very end so you can get my career success bonus tip for underrepresented populations. And if you want to know how to turn all of this around, join the course. The Offer Magnet Job Seeker recently launched. Details in the details section below. Click the link. Become an offer magnet. You can easily turn this around. So this week's video, Signs Your Job Interview Was Garbage. Let's get started. So you had a job interview and you've been having this bad feeling, like in your gut, that things didn't go too well. And this video is to help you to check out those signs so that maybe next time you can turn things around much more easily. And I don't want to delay it, so let's jump right into it, okay? Sign number one that your interview was probably garbage was that there was complete disinterest from the employer. And maybe the employer started off being very interested in what you had to say, and then all of a sudden you can see that they just checked out of the interview. And odds are you'll know that they've checked out of the interview because they were completely disengaged. There were no more warm facial expressions. Their nonverbals told you so. They may have been doing things that were just blatantly rude, like, checking email or, just doing something that had nothing to do with the interview overall. That is a good sign that not only did the interview not go well, but also that it was probably not, this person probably wouldn't have been a good manager anyway. And I talk about that in one of my videos where signs of a bad employer. I want you to check out that video as well too, so that you can see the connection between the two, because it may have had something to do with the interview not going well, but also it may have had a lot to do with the fact that that person just probably wouldn't be a good person to work for anyway. Sign number two that your interview probably didn't go so well is that your interviewers had to constantly ask you clarifying questions because they just couldn't quite understand what you've said. So one of the things that I shared in a playlist of videos, job interview questions and answers, is that it's not enough to be qualified for the position, but if you're unable to articulate just how you're qualified for those positions, you're not going to be a competitive you're not going to be a competitive candidate. And so this is that example where every time you answer a question, the interviewer just doesn't seem to be getting it. And it's almost like they're trying to pull out different answers from you. And it's just not working. Where they weren't, if the interviewer isn't able to connect the dots on how you meet the qualifications for that position, then that's a clear indication that it just isn't going well. If they seem to be now all of a sudden in a rush to get the interview over, and if they don't even give you any opportunity to ask any questions at the very end, that's probably a good sign as well too. So as a side note, maybe the interview is already over now, and now you're trying to figure out why you haven't heard back yet from the employer. If you didn't check out a previous video that I did, check that out too, because that can give you some other clear indications of answering some of your questions on why you haven't heard back. And so I haven't heard back after my interview. Why is that? Make sure that you check out that video when you get a second. Now, sign number 3, which is a really, really big sign that I want you to watch out for when you are interviewing, and it's an early end to an interview. Now, as a disclaimer, there are times where employers or things just happen and interviews have to be cut short. But odds are, if your interview, let me even take it a step back, but the way that interviews are typically set up, it's that the higher up a person is in the organization, the further down on your agenda or your itinerary they're going to be. That's not always the case because there are some times where you just have to fit people in based on their availability. But the biggest decision makers are typically people who are toward the end of the day of your on-site interviews. And what this allows to happen is that, and you're not wasting anyone's time. And so if you don't get through the first few people on the interview agenda, then they'll shut down the rest of the agenda and they'll escort you out. And they'll probably tell you something that is something nice, like, "Hey, I apologize. There have been some changes in the day, and the interview will probably end here, or such and such a schedule has changed, and we'll be back in touch with you." So pay attention to that as well. If the interview ends a little early, and because that is one sign that it was probably just not a good interview at all, to the point where they didn't want to advance you to the next person on the interviewing list. Now, if you've ever been in this situation before and you now recognize what it was, I'm curious as to, how did that situation play out for you and what did you do in response to it? Especially, I'd love to hear from people who may have turned that around, and maybe the interview was about to end early and there was something that you did that turned it around to complete the interviewing process, and maybe even you got the position. I'd love to hear those and put it in the comment section below too. So, as promised, we're at the Career Success bonus tip for underrepresented populations. And this bonus tip is about the importance of bringing your A game all the way through the entire interview. And it's really, really important. I tell my clients all the time that it doesn't matter how comfortable the employer is. It doesn't matter how comfortable and relaxed and casual they try to convince you to be. You can be comfortable and casual, but still show up with your A game no matter what, especially even if you are being interviewed by someone who is a part of your underrepresented population. So I've seen this happen more than once where I've talked to people before who have said, "Oh, yeah, I brought my A game all the way up through until the end. And then, now I met someone who did my final interview, and they were of my same heritage. They were my same race. They were my same gender. We were both, dads or something like that. And they felt that in that moment, they could let their hair down and just kick back and relax. And that was the actual interviewer that said, no, we shouldn't hire this person. So even and especially when you think you should, it's now safe to relax or to be super comfortable and casual, that is not the time to do it. And some interviewers in particular will do a great job. And I think that it's the right thing to do, to try to make you feel comfortable so that they can see the real version of yourself. But you can be comfortable and still bring your A game to the interview. Show up well, and do it throughout the entire interview. I hope that you like that bonus tip. So I appreciate you for watching this video today. And as a special gift to you, if you haven't already downloaded it, check out my free guide, 21 Pieces of Career Advice for Underrepresented Populations. And if you also want to learn how to become an offer magnet, then you have got to take our course, The Offer Magnet Job Seeker. Links to both are below in the details section. And so like I always say, which is really, really important, in order for us to become underrepresented no more in corporate America, we must listen, engage, apply, repeat. Now, we've all got to learn. I'm Jennifer Tardy. I am your career success coach. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.